Hello and welcome to this narrated PowerPoint all about making quality referrals to the school-age speech and language therapy service. Our aims for this session are for you to understand how to make quality referrals to speech and language therapy, for you to understand what information to include in a referral and why, and for you to understand the importance of including information from parents, carers and other key people in referrals. Our speech and language therapy service works with children who have speech and language difficulties. Here is a brief outline of the different areas of speech, language and communication need, which often we shorten to SLCN. The information you provide us with at referral is really useful. We value your views on what the child's strengths and needs are and the other invaluable information you can provide about the child as a whole. Accurate information helps us as speech and language therapists to identify the best way to support individual children. When you first identify a child who may benefit from a speech and language therapy referral, consider what makes you think this. A useful place to start is with gathering information about the child to build a communication profile. You should use your observations and screening tools to compare the child's current skill level with developmental norms and highlight key areas of concern. There are lots of screening tools available, and there will be a key resources list at the end of this presentation. When comparing to developmental norms, the Universally Speaking Checklist by ICANN, or now called Speech and Language UK, is a good place to start, with information about typical talk at different ages. There is also a Communication Trust checklist. These will be shared at the end of this video. If you identify that the child does have some SLCN, please discuss with their parents to get their views and gain parental consent first. We will talk more about this on the next slide. Background information gives context to the specific SLCN information you provide us with. In schools, you are ideally placed to understand the child as a whole and gather information from parents and carers. Parental consent is needed to access child-specific advice from a speech and language therapist, even pre-referral. You will need written consent for any liaison meeting, drop-in, or referral to the single point of entry to speech and language therapy. When discussing your concerns with parents, you can use the opportunity to gather information about the family history, any related needs that the child has, information about English as an additional language, and parent views on their child's SLCN. When asking about family history, useful information includes any close family members with identified SLCN, such as language delay, speech difficulties, stammering, hearing impairment, autism, or ADHD. Any other information about the family that you deem to be relevant is also worth putting in your referral. When considering a child who is learning English as an additional language, it is helpful to know what language or languages are spoken at home, including any specific dialects. It is also important that we understand how long the child has been exposed to English and whether the child can learn new words when explicitly taught. Parents can provide key information about the child's understanding and use of their other languages. For example, does the child follow instructions in their first language, and do they respond using that language or English? Parental views are also very important. Parents and carers know their child best and can give information about how the child is communicating at home. We will now go through some information that is specific to children and young people who stammer. School-age pupils of any age across primary and secondary schools can access support from the Stammering Support Team. The criteria for a referral is that the pupil and/or their parents or carers are concerned and would like some support, whether this be about their stammering or any other fluency-related difference, for example, cluttering. There are some cases where the pupil and/or their parents or carers are not concerned. Stammering is not having a large impact upon the family, and they do not wish for direct input. In this case, it is likely that their needs can be met via school without extra support from the stammering support team. In this instance, please access our free staff training sessions and videos, which your school was sent as part of their Senko pack. However, please do make a referral in the future if the pupil or the family would like support at that time. Targeted intervention. Some speech and language screeners will recommend interventions. If you are not confident in selecting an intervention, please discuss your findings so far with your link therapist to identify an appropriate next step. If your school doesn't have a link therapist, for example, if you are a mainstream secondary school, you can access our telephone advice line or our generic email address for guidance. Once you have identified an intervention, implement it for at least one term, maintaining an intervention record detailing the number of sessions and the child's progress. Once you have finished your period of intervention, please review the child's progress and whether you still feel that the child would benefit from speech and language therapy input. If you have reviewed a child's progress following a term of intervention and feel that the child has not made progress, it is time to look at accessing speech and language therapy advice. Please discuss with your link therapist at a liaison meeting or a drop-in. If you don't have a link therapist, you could access our telephone advice line or our speech therapy email address. All of this information will be at the end of the PowerPoint. You may also directly refer to speech and language therapy using a single point of entry or a SPE form, attaching all of the evidence that you have gathered, including screeners, observations, and intervention record forms. We will now talk about completing a SPE. If you have a link therapist, this is how you can fill in an effective SPE referral form. Please indicate on the referral form that you have discussed the child at a liaison meeting or if they have been seen at a drop-in. Attach a copy of the outcome form that you were sent, as well as any other completed screeners that you carried out. Additionally, please attach details of the targeted interventions that you put in place and how long they were carried out for. Please include up-to-date contact information for yourself and the child's parents or carers. If parents or carers have a preferred method of communication that you use, please let us know. For example, preferred contact numbers, best times to contact them, and whether parents prefer phone calls or emails. We also need to know whether parents require an interpreter, and if so, in which language and dialect. Please also note whether parents are able to access official written communication, such as appointment letters and professional reports. If the child has a one-to-one member of staff or an LSA who could work with them, please note this on the referral. Please also include whether the child has an EHCP or top-up funding. This slide is relevant for schools without a link therapist. Filling in a SPE form is a great opportunity for you to share the information you collated when building the child's communication profile. We value your information highly. The more detailed your description, the more able we are to triage referrals accurately and provide the right support for the child. Include the information from their communication profile, the background information you gathered, the impact of the child's SLCN, and detail your intervention provided over at least one term. You can also highlight the support that you need from speech and language therapy, for example, whether you feel an assessment is needed, targets are required, or more specific therapy activities to be identified. As discussed previously, please include up-to-date contact information for yourself and the child's parents or carers. If parents or carers have a preferred method of communication that you use, please let us know. For example, preferred contact numbers, best times to contact them, and whether parents prefer phone calls or emails. We also need to know whether parents require an interpreter and in which language and dialect. Please also note whether parents are able to access official written communication, such as appointment letters and professional reports. If the child has a one-to-one member of staff or an LSA who could work with them, please note this on the referral. Please also include whether the child has an EHCP or top-up funding. Here is a checklist to help you check that you have all the paperwork you need before submitting a referral. You can ask your linked speech and language therapist for any pieces of paperwork that you require, including screening tools and LSA intervention records. Information submitted with this SPE needs to be up to date, including intervention record forms, screeners and outcome forms. If it is felt that information is out of date, referrals may be rejected. Here is a flowchart that summarises the process for accessing speech and language therapy support for children. Right at the beginning, a child is identified as not meeting developmental norms for speech, language, communication or fluency. At this point, you will start to build a communication profile. Building a communication profile will include making and recording observations, completing screeners, and comparing to age norms such as universally speaking. You then need to speak with parents to get their written consent and explore their views. Once you have all of this information, you can either begin implementing targeted intervention straight away or discuss with your link therapist. If you do not have a link therapist, you can access our email address or telephone advice line. You will need to implement the targeted intervention for at least one term to see how the child responds. Make continuous observations and monitor the impact of the targeted intervention using an LSA intervention form. If the child is making good progress, you can continue with your targeted intervention. If the child is not making progress, it could be time to refer to speech and language therapy using a SPE form. Discuss this with your link therapist. If you do not have a link therapist, you can either contact us again using our email or phone number or refer straight away. Include all the information that you have gathered so far, including your observations, parental report, and your record of targeted intervention and its impact. Here is another flowchart that summarises the process for accessing support from the stammering support team, which is a slightly different process. This flowchart and all relevant resources, training videos and information about how to refer to the stammering support team is available in your Synco pack. If staff observe that a pupil is stammering, all staff supporting the child are required to access the relevant resources and watch the relevant YouTube training videos for the pupil's age group. If the child and/or their parent or carer is concerned, you will need to speak with parents to get their written consent and explore their views. Once you have all of this information, you can discuss with your link therapist. If you do not have a link therapist, you can access our email address or telephone advice line. Your link therapist can advise you on which referral pathway is appropriate and signpost you to further training videos and resources. Let's look at the right-hand side of the flowchart now. If the child is under 7 years, 6 months, and they have not received any support from the stammering support team before, they will qualify for our online pre-referral parent information session. To access the parent information session, please complete our stammering parent session form and email it to sirona.stammering-team@nhs.net. The family will then be added to the waiting list. A SPE referral is not required to access this session. Please note, although this input is designed for pupils 7 years, 6 months and under, in some cases it is appropriate for parents or carers of older pupils to access this support. For example, if the pupil is over this age, for example 8 or 9 years old, and has learning or language needs, that might mean input via parents is most appropriate at the current time, rather than individual direct input for the pupil. If you have any queries about this, please discuss with your LINC speech and language therapist. If the child is over 7 years, 6 months, or if they are a younger child who has already received the parent information session, they can be referred into the service. To do this, please complete a SPE form and fill out the green sections of the Stammering Support Team referral form. Both documents need to then be emailed to SPE. The Stammering Support Team will then allocate the pupil to the appropriate waiting list for intervention. This may be either group or individual therapy depending on their age. Please note, when making a referral, please indicate that staff have either completed the relevant training or the date that they have scheduled to complete this. This is an example of the Stammering Parent Session form. For pupils who are under 7 years, 6 months, who have not received any support from the stammering team before, this is the form to complete, and it is in your Senko pack. This is the example Stammering Support Team referral form. For younger children whose parents or carers have already accessed a stammering parent information session, or for pupils who are over 7 years, 6 months, staff are to complete the green boxes of this form along with a SPE form, both of which are available in your Senko pack. Here is an example of a good language referral from a school that does not have a LINC therapist. This example is using the North Somerset SPE. Here is an example of a good speech referral from a school without a LINC therapist. This is using the Bristol and South Gloss referral form. So, what happens once the SPE form has been submitted? Your referral will be triaged by a speech and language therapist. If the referral is accepted, then the child will be placed on a waiting list and seen within 18 weeks, either by telephone or in person. If the referral is rejected, the referrer will be sent a refusal letter with information about why the referral has been rejected. Here are some useful documents for you to access. The first link will take you through to ICANN, or now Speech and Language UK, with documents explaining how to make effective referrals. There are documents about considering the whole child, building a communication profile, and referral decision making. The second link is to their guidance on raising concerns about a child's SLCN with their parents. There are several screening tools available. These are all based on age norms and usually provide a red, amber or green rating of the child's language skills. Your LINC therapist may also provide you with informal screening tools you could use. The Universally Speaking Checklist is a free resource from Speech and Language UK that includes information booklets for each age group of what is expected and a checklist that can give a red, amber or green rating, although this requires much more interpretation than the other resources. Progression tools are available for ages 4 to 11, and you can buy them for individual years or as a primary bundle. They have a range of questions to assess areas of language and take about 30 minutes to administer. These were created by ICANN, now Speech and Language UK. Language Link is an online system that schools subscribe to each year. There are separate infant and junior packages that include screening and support recommendations. The Wellcome Speech and Language Toolkit is available in the early years up to age 6, And they have primary packages too, which include a screen and support ideas. The screen takes 20 minutes to administer. You can also get in touch with the speech and language therapy team via the generic email address shown on the slide. We also have a telephone advice line. The number and more information can be found on the CCHP Speech and Language Therapy website. The telephone advice line is open on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. until midday. For further information about our speech and language therapy service, please refer to your Senko pack. Thank you very much for watching.